It was really the Messer's Kong because Diddy helped as well.
Of course, yeah, of course. You can't discount Diddy. All right, so um, to go over the situation that we have last time. Obviously, we have an adjutant working with Colonel Twiggs' regiment at the moment. But for now, just to give the sort of strategic situation, this is, I believe, the plan that we discussed last time, which was basically as the main sort of the main part of the brigade or the division goes to this sort of upper road from El Paso, past this little fork here. It'll march along the Coach Road until it gets to Lipan Creek, Camp Creek. And then I believe the plan was to dispatch Colonel Regis with his infantry down Lipan Camp Creek to help clear that road. And Twiggs was going to hook even farther to the east to come in on the other side of Dove Creek, I believe was what we had discussed.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, we'll probably, if you want to, we can get started with. We'll take Regis first, if you want to.
Yeah.
And we'll probably just have to do a couple of different, probably fairly short, but a couple of different battles. And then if we need to, we can also we can roll that up into a bigger one that, depending on what happens, might be the case. But
Solid.
okay, alrighty. So, excuse me. Yeah. So Colonel Regis. So first of all, let's get you to roll. You are marching. So give me a cohesion roll. So this would probably be quite early in the morning at first. So you are. This is basically last night. That would have been the night of September 2nd. You were told by a dispatch rider that came from General Worcester, apprising you all of the situation and telling you to kind of strike out a little bit east and come down Lipan Camp Creek. So yeah, give me a cohesion roll with your leadership and or whatever thing you're using.
All right. Well, I will add in my discerning patriot here, as it's time for everyone to do their good duty and rise and shine, patriots, for battle. Good morning, Western Texas.
Okay. With a 4, you're making okay time. So like you get up, an hour or two before dawn. Obviously, it's quite cold. It gets very cold in Texas during the nights, but you're able to march in fairly good order, and we'll say by 10 o'clock, a couple hours before noon yet, you spot the creek, cross it, and are now kind of heading down southward. So here's where so your troops have already expended 3 stamina just because of the march there. You were at full before that because you rested up pretty fine. So you've expended 3 stamina on the march. It's going to take at least 2 more to get you down to Lipan Camp, like down to basically where you're gonna to hook up again with the rest of the division. You can get there faster if you spend more. So basically, it's up to you. Do you want to slowly kind of come in, keep your cohesion, and maybe arrive a little bit late, or would you rather hoof it, get there really quickly, and arrive a little bit more tired? It's up to you.
I like the idea of getting there quicker.
Okay.
If so, maybe spend an additional 2 stamina to, I'd rather be on hand with guys who are a little tired than have missed it.
Sure.
Or
Okay.
watching the rest of the division turn around or something.
Right.
Guys.
Yeah. All right. So if in that
We are
case,
double right clicking.
yeah, exactly. So in that case, essentially what that's going to mean is that, okay, I've got your, yep. So, but you're just about at the point where if you spend more points of stamina, you're going to have doubled pressure against anything that you do, which is bad. So right now you don't have too much pressure, except that you've got 1 for being a little bit tired. So the doubled pressure isn't really going to make that big a difference, but it's a good idea to spend a point of one of your troop attributes to sort of re-up your stamina before you go in. So the way that works is that if you spend a point of your cohesion, for instance, you'll get 4 more points of stamina back. And that'll put you above the limit that you have that causes that point of pressure. So you'll arrive fresh stamina-wise, but you'll have fewer opportunities to sort of use your cohesion, right? But you do have the manpower that you can use and all that. So
do we? I take it this is a permanent loss.
No, you'll get it back with good resting. Okay. But it is more it's more long term than just the stamina loss.
Sure, I would like to take a point from my labor attribute.
Okay.
I think, and pop this bad boy back up.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. So, how are you approaching? Like, how are you? You've got obviously the objective. You know that there's basically like a bridge that is over the Stagecoach Road, over the creek. You are actually
somewhere to the east of the creek.
Correct. Yeah. So the creek will be on your right as you're heading down south. So I have a map up that'll show you a bit. So a couple of things to keep in mind is that keeping the creek on your right, it's got a roughly 3 to 4 foot drop on the bank. But right now it's mostly pretty dry. It's been a dry summer. It hasn't rained all that often, and so the creek itself is actually not flush. It's not like there's about maybe 20 feet in the middle that has water in it that is about 12 inches deep, maybe. So it's more
How wide from bank to bank, the cuttings?
It's about 150 yards across, more or less. It's like mostly
substantial.
Yeah, I mean, mostly it's like they call it a creek mostly because it is just usually not full, right? It's not like it gets really full in the springs, like when snows melt and everything, and the rivers, and it rains a lot more. But being in sort of high and dry in the summer, it's quite small. So like the part in the middle that actually has water in it is maybe 15 feet wide. The rest of the bank, though, it fluctuates a lot because it floods.
Right. No, that makes sense. As we kind of approach, can we, hear the sound of battle or anything to give any indication that the rest of the brigade has made contact with the folks at the creek, or see any signs of like scuffle or smoke up ahead?
Yeah, go ahead and give me a focus check. That, or you can dispatch scouts. You can make a detachment and send scouts out if you want.
We'll do a focus check. We're going to keep everybody nice and together. Scouting's for the horsey.
Yeah. Oh, also, I forgot to tell you, right? So last time we discussed a little bit, you were able to, between the two of you, you have the Kiowa cavalry, and you also have artillery. You have Napoleons. So how do you want to divvy that up between the two of you on your sort of separate missions?
Unless we have enough horses to make them actual horse artillery, I'd give the majority of them to Regis.
Okay.
So like if I
could you use some of your the Kiowa horses? That artillery might be really useful as a surprise, gotcha. Where they're
we can take like a gun or two, and we could probably scrounge enough horses to have everyone in the battery mounted. I don't think it'd be too hard, but probably not more than that.
Yeah, even one or two with the glint of brass and whiff of grape shot and all that would be
okay,
very beneficial for when they eventually run into that further down the road, trying to set up a fallback line.
Let me look on. So you have it's a 6-gun battery total. So you can each take 3 guns, if you like. Okay.
Sure.
Sounds all right. Yeah. So you got 3 12-pounders along with you as well. So yeah, go ahead and give me your focus roll if you haven't already.
Focus. I was looking for it. It's my personal attribute.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And I guess since I'm looking for the signs of battle, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I mean,
will
you're
use
mostly
my
like sort of. You're not sure exactly. Like you know that you're following along the creek. You don't know exactly how far you need to go before you run into them quite yet.
and yeah, I'll use my marksman's intuition to listen
Sure.
for this sort of thing.
Yeah.
Tell. Signs.
Okay. Yeah. So with a 5, so you guys are marching, right? And you're kind of keeping out in good order and everything, and you are personally sort of out ahead with your kind of forward elements, like on your horse, probably with the scope on your rifle that is as long as the rifle. Just like
Yes.
and you actually haven't. You're able to spot the bridge and the Confederate sort of little encampment, little fortification. Without you haven't spotted any fires, you haven't heard any artillery or gunfire or anything like that, and you're actually able to kind of you sort of emerge around this like little sort of bushy sort of copse, and you come around it, and it's like, oh, there they are, like maybe a mile or two down. So they haven't spotted you yet, but they are in positions on the east side of the Stagecoach Bridge. And they look like you can see on basically your right, sort of closest to the bridge, is infantry guys and then back a couple of 100 yards behind them they have cavalry, or they have horses that are being held. So it looks like this is probably a force of dismounted cavalry that are fighting as infantry to guard the bridge. They also have at least one small battery of 6-pounders. You don't know how many guns. You can't really see that super clearly, but they do have sort of one sort of hastily entrenched battery of guns as well. And that's actually on the southern side. So the far side, they have their infantry in between you and their artillery.
And presumably they are facing west
Yes.
towards, anticipating someone coming down
Yep.
the road that way.
Yeah, you don't see any sign that they have seen you approach yet.
All right. I guess what I would like to do with a creek of that size, which seems pretty easily fordable,
Mhm.
with the mud, I'd like to detach a group of like my Mudfoot scouts.
Okay.
I want to send out a small group to like pole vault the river there and start sending them to tell the rest of the brigade that we're approaching from the north, and
Okay.
tell them to hasten
Sure.
their attack, because if we hit them from both sides kind of at the same time, the cannon
Yeah.
can't point at both of us.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, my Mudfoot cavalry. So how do I roll for like a detachment, or I just make one?
You make one, and the detachment will roll at 5d10, and plus 1 skill point. Just 1 skill point is how the detachments work.
Yeah, so I'd like the detachment of maybe some of the guys I know who happen to be the fastest.
Sure.
To just jog on over. It's not a large detachment,
Yeah, of course.
4 or 5
yeah,
guys,
right.
Just,
Okay. Actually, I'm gonna have you roll a discerning patriot with your charm, because I want to see. This is sort of like your kind of a test of your generalship, because if you get super, like we'll say if you get a 5 or more, you're not actually gonna have to spend a manpower to create the detachment. You'll just pick some dudes and they'll go.
Now I gotta talk some of them into it.
Yeah,
they do have really nice uniforms, and I can imagine none of them want to get their trousers besmirched.
Okay. But yeah, I'll just say like I'll roll some in the background for the detachment for you and see if it's really mostly to see if I roll a 0, then disaster will happen. But I don't. We'll see. I'm gonna roll it secretly now, just so. Okay, so I have rolled. I will let you know if I mean, you'll find out if if they've catastrophically failed soon enough. But none of them get stuck like up to their waists in like a mud like a mud patch or anything like that. They grumble a little bit, and one or two of them kind of fall over and have to be like dragged bodily through this mud thing. But they're fine. They've made it. So they're across and they wave to you. See you on the other side, Colonel, and they go out running off to go get things. So let me switch you on over to the battle map, and we'll get started with that pretty soon. So I've got to switch over on this guy too. So yeah, all right. So just like last time, we've got north facing over. I'll put it over here just so it's easier to see, and I'll also put my screen over so I can actually see what's going on in the screen as well. All right, so basically what you see is this sort of block of dismounted cavalry that are basically just covering the bridge. So they're not obviously quite as cohesive as it looks by just this one little board. They've taken positions of cover and they're sort of concealed to a certain extent so that they can maybe rise up and get a kind of surprise volley as hopefully your sort of the rest of the division when they are coming across. So slightly south of that is just kind of a broken bridge. Like this is basically just vertical poles that otherwise would have supported a bridge. And I guess they must have moved the road recently. So there's just a little bit of a broken bridge. This could probably be crossed if it absolutely needed to, just in case you know. But your men, obviously, are basically up here. Obviously, again, this is not to scale, so don't super worry about that.
Right.
And you have sent a detachment sort of across the river, and they're heading over this way to hopefully find the rest of the division. So this, we'll say, is roughly 100 yards. I just whipped that up just so it's kind of easy if we need to do that. But anyway, that's kind of the situation. Their battery, we'll say, is these two little things over here, obviously overlooking the bridge and kind of overlooking the approaching road as well. So that is essentially the situation that you're in for now.
Okay.
And obviously,
And
again, this is the.
you said that there were. Yes, and you said there were like paddocked horses or.
Yeah. So they're just sort of a couple hundred yards down, right? They've got boys basically holding them, but you can sort of see them kind of over here, right? In this kind of loose kind of pen. But yeah, I mean, like you can look through your sort of scope and you can actually see that these are literally like 14-year-old boys that are holding the reins of like 3 or 4 horses at a time.
Right. Okay, so the plan of attack that I'm considering here, I'd like to get as many. I'd like to create one more detachment
Okay.
of non mudfoot infantry cavalry,
Right.
but another couple fast guys who I'm going to want to swing over to the west towards where the boys are, and their goal is to scatter or kill the horses.
Okay.
That's they're going to try and create quite a bit of trouble there. But with the majority of my force, I'd like to approach that position from within the kind of like 3-foot natural trench there to the side of in the dried riverbed, coming that way, which I imagine by the time we get close enough would be, unless they reposition their guns, kind of difficult to get a firing solution down like 4 feet.
Okay.
And that main group, I am assuming, will attract most of the attention of these cavalry and battery.
Okay.
So that's the plan.
All right. So just to recap, you want to kind of get most of your main force right here down into about here.
Yeah.
And that mostly you just
with that. Yeah, using it kind of as a natural breastwork.
Okay.
Against any of those forces, because it's 3-4 foot, about chest high or so, but gives a quite a bit of protection, allowing again these few guys that maybe we've given a couple of extra pistols to jam in their belts to run over and scatter the horses, but not make a big show of their approaching. Obviously,
Right. Got it. Okay. I will say, Keith, if you want to roll for the detachment, and then we'll have obviously we'll have Regis. Obviously, you will be rolling for your own, forces.
roll your own.
Roll your own. All right. So,
Cash
go
Regis
ahead.
patented homemade cigarette kit.
And...
Cash Regis, roll your own.
It's actually like it's printed paper from your book, your best-selling book.
Each one has a pithy platitude right on the smoke.
Yeah.
The ink gives it a great aftertaste.
Right.
All right. So I would say probably we're looking at a maneuver check to see your guys navigating in the sort of mud pit here. To see how this is sort of like how close do you get before they spot you sort of a thing, right? Because obviously, like, sure. It is a little muddy, so there is a risk that it's actually going to be really hard going to get in there. But like you pointed out, it is a little bit more concealed, and there's a good chance that you might actually get like basically right up in their face before they spot you. Wow. And then for Keith, since you're rolling the detachment, it's 5d10 plus 1 point of skill, and basically like your job is, again, you're doing the horses. That's it. You're trying to run the horses off. Regis, how long are you going to wait until you go? Because obviously you sent this other detachment out to sort of like let Worcester and the rest of the division know that you're ready to go. Do you want to wait until you get like confirmation back, or do you want to just go?
No, we'll let them go, but maybe until they're out of sight at the very least. If we're well kind of around the bend, they haven't spotted us.
Okay.
I will tell everyone to muddy up their epaulets for a second so we're not immediately seen.
Okay.
We won't waste too much time, but obviously, like, if we can still see the Mudfoot cavalry. So yeah, let them, obviously, if they're still in sight and obviously have not seen anyone, we're not going to start moving quite yet. So we'll give them some time to get over the next hill or two.
Okay.
But after an appropriate amount of time has passed for them to have conceivably contacted the brigade, we're not waiting for a response.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So your men have been dispatched. They're on their way. You see them again trotting off until they get beyond the horizon. And you see him sort of, one of them, waves his hat at you just as he's kind of getting over the thing and trots off again. But yeah, so the rest of you. So yeah, we need a maneuver check to see these guys here in the riverbank. Obviously, I assume that they're kind of formed up in like a column, essentially, kind of heading down that way. And then when we want to, we'll have Keith roll for these guys to see if they can scatter the horses. I assume that's going to be kind of like a coordinated thing, though, where it's, start your advance, and when you're sort of pulling aggro from this attack, then you'll get the horses.
Right.
Yeah.
As soon as
Okay.
As soon as it looks like we're going to get close there. So I'd like to be able to add something to my maneuver here, because my maneuver is pretty garbage.
Yeah. So you have used 2 points of manpower, I believe, to make detachments. You can put your last point of manpower in maneuver, and that'll get it up to 3. You're also going to be rolling. You can use a personal skill also to influence this roll. So this is going to be basically you're competing against my role as the Confederate forces. So they might also have a really shitty ability to spot you, especially if they're not looking out for you. So I'll actually be rolling you don't know exactly how much, because
Right.
You're not sure, but you're basically rolling against like their officers' sort of awareness.
All right, so I will put my last point of manpower in there,
Okay.
and then I'd like to use my skill of all in. I'm going to tell the boys we kind of hop down into the little mud trench here. And
Okay.
we are moving forward. We got one shot of this. We put all our men. Everyone's accounted for. We don't actually surrender, which would be the smart thing for them to do. That as long as we drive them from the field running to form a rear line of defense, we're gold.
Yeah.
Because we know they're going to run into more resistance.
Right. Okay.
So,
yeah. So go
right.
ahead and give me the roll. I will roll for the enemy here.
No, not great.
Yeah. I mean, you're not rolling against. You're certainly not rolling against like a huge skill of your own either. So yeah. Okay. It looks like you have. Basically, they also rolled a 2. So we'll let you take a choice. So either they're going to spot your detachment going after the horses, or they're going to spot your guys in the trench or in like the riverbank first. But it's up to you.
Well, they would much more obviously spot the men in the riverbank, and I'm banking with that being okay because of my meta knowledge that guys in World War I trenches were muddy, but it kept them alive. So, like, trenches are the ultimate defensive tool. So,
okay.
yeah. Well, I think they would obviously spot the 1,000 men in the mud rather than
So we'll say they kind of spot you
5 or 6 guys hiding. Make a break.
Okay. So we'll say they spot you a bit when you're about 200 yards away or so. So it's in range of their guns, and they're going to need to roll a maneuver check to kind of come over here. And what they want to do is actually like line the bank, right? So they can just sort of plunge fire into you before you can take any kind of cover against them. So I'm going to roll a maneuver check first, and then I'm going to roll their offense. So roll here. I'm rolling. I'll roll this in the open. Actually, I rolled the last one in secret, but I'm going to roll this one right out in the open.
We can
first.
see it moving.
Yeah. Oh Lord. Okay, so thanks to my very terrific as always rolling. Let me sort of mark down here first. So troops spotted, and maneuver 0. So they're actually what they're going to do is like rather than go to try to confront you, they actually get into a bunch of disorder right here at the end of the bridge, and they don't actually fucking do anything. So you get a free maneuver check. You just get a free one because they're basically like maybe they've got a bunch of NCOs that have different ideas, or they don't want to line the bank quite at first, or whatever. Like some of them are like, maybe we should cross the bridge. Like they,
Did one of them attempt parkour?
Maybe. There's one guy like launched himself into the river and is now like kicking his feet while his like bayonet is holding him up in the. But yeah, you get a free maneuver check. So I'll say anything. If you get a 4, you can do essentially whatever you want. If you get like a 2 or a 3, you can is more or less kind of advance up to where you get to basically within 100 yards and get to like just fire right into their faces. And again, since you got the sharps, you might even be able to get off a second volley like straight away. So.
Yeah, so what I would like to do is attempt to move closer, obviously, like into just like a kill range, and also getting ourselves more cover from the guns. I think the closer we are to those guns,
okay,
they can't see us at all.
Right,
you're
right.
they'd have to fire through the ground. So I'd like to get closer. And I think one of my army's traits that I think might be applicable somehow would be it's when they do that like street combat. I don't know if you were ever practiced with like when we had Dan O'Connell and the whole eighth.
Yeah.
But when you're like in column and like firing and peeling off.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's something that we would naturally be very good at as marching peacocks because we did a lot of parades.
Okay. Sure.
So moving, just like hustling straight up in, and when there is first contact, we can do some of that. Very quick firing, moving to the side, and it would just be a very natural thing for this regiment to do.
Sure.
Since it is so similar to straight up parade marching.
Okay. Yeah. So go ahead and give me a roll.
All right. So how do I factor in? Right. So how do I figure that into the maneuver?
So like, I would say you can use this trait on either this maneuver check or you can save it for your offense check. It's up to you.
Okay, we'll save that for the offense.
Okay.
Check.
I would also recommend maybe wagering either morale or stamina or portions of both on this maneuver check because like the higher you get on this, the potential more bonus that you're going to get on that first volley. Because this is again a totally free roll as a result of my fuck up.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I want to get right up in there because I think that's going to be pretty devastating.
Sure.
And then like maybe 2 stamina. We are marching through the mud.
Yep.
So and just because my maneuver is real bad, so this is a good time to take advantage of this. So those just are plus dice,
yes.
Right?
Yep. So you'll be rolling your maneuver attribute, your skill, which is you're using all in because you are personally leading the charge, and you're going to have the additional +2 or +3 or whatever stamina that you're risking.
And what about the morale?
So factor like the number of points, like add the stamina that you're risking, or the stamina you're using, and the morale that you're risking. Just add those together, and then just put plus whatever that number is as the third input. Just put a space. So it should be a roll 3 because your maneuver is at a 3 because you added a point of manpower to it. That stays there until it's unassigned.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not just a one-time use thing. Like the manpower stays attached to that attribute until you put it somewhere else.
That is good to know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna mark that down so don't forget it. All right.
Okay.
I will try
yeah.
With...
Oh, well, that was. Yeah. So you've got a 4. Just roll one. Yeah, just roll one more. Just see what it is. So that's a. I would just say roll 1. So let's just say we'll take the 2. So you've. Yeah, but I mean, if you did that, it would be weird because like the bot would assume that if you say roll 1, you're rolling at a skill of 1. Or an attribute of 1, so it would only accept a 1 as a possible success. So we'll just say we'll take the 2, and you've rolled a 5. And with a 5, yeah, you're actually really, really, really able to kind of get right up there, like laying your guns up on the bank. Your first rank sort of fires, and they peel off, and the second rank comes through, and just laying in on them. So I'll even say that you get an additional. You're going to get a +2 for this offense roll that you're about to make.
Okay. So I click in between the things. So offense is 3. I guess as my personal attribute, I would like to add my marksmanship here into the men. They've got this
Yep.
good, clean kill shot area. And then, okay, so when you do +2, and I'm sorry for constantly being confused,
No,
it's
it's
simply
okay.
rolling 2. Just then be like +3,
Well, so what
or just the
what I mean is that you're going to get automatically +2 successes off the bat. So it's going to count as
Yeah.
basically your skill. So when you roll this next one, it's going to be roll offense space roll your marksman skill plus an additional 2 to that one. And then if you're going to spend any more stamina or anything like that, that's when you would make that third kind of plus rank dealy thing to it.
All right. Well, I guess I would like to maybe keep. I'll risk that morale again of
Okay.
like +3, because we've made it. People are
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
happy. We've gotten so close on them being so dumb.
Yeah.
So, right, there we go.
All right. Yeah, with 6. So rolling a 6 offense. Yeah, that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad for them. So I'm gonna real quickly roll up their cohesion, because that's gonna hit them basically right in the cohesion, and we'll see how much damage you do. But it looks pretty bad to them already.
The cohesion.
Yeah, they've got pretty good cohesion, and they have a pretty good officer too. So they're not out of the fight quite yet. And additionally, I think what they're going to do is the officer response to that disorder is he's going to put one of his points of manpower directly into his cohesion. So they're actually be rolling at a 5. So they rolled a 3. So you've basically hit them for 3 points of damage directly into their cohesion. I mean, you can either do it all to cohesion, or you can do it to any of their other, any of the other attributes. You can basically choose where this goes. But obviously you don't know exactly what their strength is. There's a good chance. So just to kind of like go over some of your options, I guess, right? So if you're targeting like their offense, then this would basically mean that like your volley was so terrific that like that I'm not sure if you're even hearing me, because I'm pretty sure my fucking internet tanked again.
I can hear it.
Okay. But so your volley was so terrific that like, the men are refusing to fire, right? They're just taking cover and they're not shooting back. So they're like frozen. If you like do damage to their maneuver, right? The same thing. It's like they're taking cover. Maybe they're shooting back. Maybe they're not being quite so passive, but they're basically just, they're looking for any cover that they possibly can, spreading out, lying on the ground, that kind of thing. If you do damage to obviously their labor, that's really not going to do anything in combat right now, but maybe it means that they're preoccupied trying to dig themselves into little foxholes or something like that, And obviously,
I hope that they have foxholes and my men they're
digging them back in. Yeah, we'll see until the next time this dies. But yeah, so you've moved up. You've got 3 points of damage. Where do you want to put it?
I would like to do it to their offense.
Okay.
Because if I'm preventing them from hurting me back, I'm doing damage to them, and if I'm keeping them pinned here, all the more chance for the other brigade to come closer, and more chance for my detachment, which hopefully, by the sounds of this gunfire, the fact that they saw we were this close has started to, move in to rile up the horses.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll get that going right away. So Keith, if you want to roll, this is a roll 5 and then 1 skill to get them to hopefully stampede off the horses.
Not great. 3.
A 3's not so bad.
I hope you just made an example out of one horse and just like executed the horse like that guy in Vietnam. Just like, making eye contact with one of the 14-year-old kids.
Jeez.
Just to put the fear of God into him. It's okay. It wasn't enslaver horse.
Well, then, yeah.
Okay, so they've taken, obviously, like these guys have taken 3 points of damage, and they are again flattening themselves onto the ground to sort of stay away, and they're not shooting back. They're all scrambling for cover. So your next thing is going to be that. However, you've got this detachment that came up, and I'm going to roll because they are also rolling as a detachment, but it's a detachment of teen boys. So they're not even a good detachment, and they don't even have a skill.
Teen boy detachment.
Yes, it's basically like the Confederate Boy Scouts are over there holding the horses, and they rolled a 1. So yeah, you basically do 2 points of damage to this detachment, and it is gone. The boys run away. So some horses are still there, but for the most part, like you just kind of came up and shot one, and then, like the boys sort of dove away, and the horses are now sort of spreading out over the plains there. So they're going. But
None of them like Johnny Clemmed, one of the detachment.
No, not yet. However, their artillery has a chance to shoot at your detachment. So we'll see. So their artillery is also quite good, and they're rolling their offense, and they have an officer. So, I mean, again, all's not lost. It's not, you're probably not going to get hyper killed or anything like that. But I'm actually going to reduce this by 2.
I hope that if they fire canister, they're gonna rip up a lot of horses too.
Yeah. So
Like,
I mean, well, they're firing what they had. They're firing just what they had loaded. So it's just solid shot. So your basically your detachment is forced to retreat. Is what happened. So they fired one piece. They hit at a 3. Near enough to your detachment that it's basically going to come back and try to reform with the rest of the rest of your force. Because I mean, it was like 10 guys or whatever, and they did what they needed to, and the horses are now kind of scattering around in disarray. But let me mark down.
You there, Keith?
I am still here. I'm
All right.
drawing on the chart.
Okay, now I see him. Yeah. The scattering of the horses.
Okay. So yeah, the detachment withdraws. The horses are all scattering. So yeah, these sort of dismounted cavalry are now permanently dismounted, and also like, clinging to the earth to try to avoid getting stampeded as the rest of your men come in. So because you have hurt their offense, they have 1 remaining point of offense. So they're going to roll that with their officer, hoping, hey, they actually got 3 successes. So they actually do put a little bit of return fire back at you. So so yeah, that was actually super duper lucky because their 1 die rolled a 1.
Right.
But yeah, so yeah, they are kind of firing back. Let's see. What is your cohesion? Your cohesion's of 4. So yeah, you just sort of passively sort of absorb it. They don't really do enough to really do anything to you. It's sort of scattered and sporadic fire. It's going to count. Well, actually, roll your cohesion. That's the way to do it. That's the way I did it with them. So this might actually end up being really bad. Who knows?
Cohesion is 4.
Okay, so it is pretty bad. You're actually going to take a couple of points of damage. That's going to count as 2 hits against you. But it's going to go straight into your cohesion. So your men are kind of, they're basically in the trenches here. They fire back. It's sort of this scattered mass, right? And I'm going to say just offense 3, and you're going to take 2 hits.
2 cohesion.
2 cohesion, yes. Okay, but it is back to your turn. So they fired their artillery. Their men who are kind of like, grabbing cover behind bushes and stuff have fired back. So what are you up to now?
I mean, I guess I'd kind of like to go, tit for tat. We seem to be, again, maybe out of the range of their big guns, and we did a pretty damn good job laying into them before. And even though we're a little more scattered and pushed up against our little impromptu trench wall, I think I'd like to just have a course of return fire.
Okay.
In this holding action, we'll either spread them out or, again, waiting on that detachment, who hopefully they were close enough to hear the sounds of battle and come a running. So,
yep. So,
I hope at least 1 or 2 of them noticed their horses run away for them to go, oh, dang.
Yeah, you see a bunch of them like they stand up out of cover just to throw their hat down and stamp on it, and then dive back down.
Dang old Petunia ran off.
I know that horse since I was a boy. Yeah, so go ahead and roll me your offense. I imagine that the way this is sort of working is your men are sort of spreading out kind of along the riverbank, and sort of like, basically only their head and shoulders are visible. So you will, like, they're very likely going to try to fire their artillery at you in the next round. But at the end of this round, you're going to get an additional point of manpower back because your detachment is going to reform with you.
Okay.
But that's next turn. But for now, yeah, I imagine kind of your men are kind of snaking themselves along on the riverbank so as many of them can fire as possible. And yeah, so go ahead and just give me your offense roll. So you are still, I mean, pretty good cover against their artillery. So they'll be rolling at a much higher difficulty to hit you in there, and the same with this. So yeah, go ahead and give me that. You're also going to get slightly higher difficulty against these guys, mostly because they are also taking cover. So it's going to be just a little bit harder to hit them, but a high enough number will also just keep them in cover, which is doing kind of the same thing anyway.
Right. I imagine most of them, even if they're flat out on the ground, they're then like in a no man's land, basically.
Yeah.
Much more so than my guys who are entrenched.
Yeah.
Well, it's not 0.
True. I suppose it was, yeah. And this is also rolling with your marksman skill. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see. They're going to get a slight bonus to their cover because they have grabbed it quite so much. So.
And I don't know if it would be I think in probably this, volley of fire, since I'm there in the trenches with these men.
Yeah.
I would personally like to take a pot shot at that officer over by the cannons,
Okay.
30 yards away or 40 yards away. I mean,
Yeah.
I have a telescoped rifle.
Yeah.
So,
go ahead and roll that. Go roll that individual skill as part of this. Yeah.
Would that maybe be like precision attribute?
Yes.
Or...
Yep. And I'm going to roll the cohesion of this thing here against your
Please roll
shot.
for that officer's hat.
That officer's hat?
Because
Okay.
if nothing else, I'd like to spin it around.
Yeah. All right. So their unit actually rolled really, really well on their cohesion. So they basically all flattened themselves onto the ground, and they're actually like managing to form a pretty formidable firing line in cover behind you. So like your sort of volleys that are kind of scattering around haven't had much of an effect on them as they're lying there. But we'll see. So they're still going to be pretty shitty at offense because you have basically shot the rifles out of many of their hands. And they probably sort of, just to sort of explain this, they probably have like they've taken off like their cartridge boxes and kind of laid them up in like little rocks and whatnot because they were expecting to defend from the bridge. So they probably just have like very low ammo. That's what we'll kind of say is sort of going on, because like a couple of your men kind of like just reach up and grab, like, look at this, I got a Sasech cartridge box, yeah.
I hope that some of the Sasech just have the pockets full of powder.
Yeah, of course. Okay, but yeah, go ahead and give me your right. Did you roll that? Was that last one your rifle roll?
Yes.
Okay.
There were twos on both.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that officer just kind of goes. He sort of takes cover behind the cannon, and nothing real major happens to it. So okay, first I'm going to roll to see these guys firing back. They're just going to roll their offense, which again is not good because none of them have ammo. But they do have a good officer. So once again, I managed to roll a 1. That's incredible.
Damn.
Yeah. So they're. But roll your cohesion, and then add an additional 2 to the skill slot of your cohesion because you are in good cover. Oh Lord. Okay, so that's going to be another. That's going to be another 2 damage actually that you're going to take. Where do you want to put it?
Well, not cohesion, because then it's just gone.
Yeah.
I guess my labor kind of seems the appropriate place to put that.
Yeah.
So I assume those Confederates kicked in my rudimentary entrenchment.
Yeah.
They're using the equivalent of pocket sand. Shh.
Okay. And now they're going to fire their artillery at you. So, man, I can't believe that was such a bad roll. Oh, wait. No, hold on. You rolled your cohesion, so it should be... This is just a demo. I'm going to let you actually roll it. You should have a skill that you're adding to it. So that would be either your all-in or personal magnetism or whatever it is that you decide to use on that one. We'll just say it at a 1. And then you get a +2 to that. So you should have rolled something like that.
Okay, I added it directly to the roll number. I am sorry.
Oh, all good.
On me. I will try that again with the all in. And I did.
Come on, bot.
Oh,
it's capitalized. Okay, that's much better. So yeah.
So damn temperamental.
Yeah. No, that's much better. Yeah. I should have spotted that right away. But yeah, you have not actually taken an additional 2 to your unit quite yet because you just goofed the roll. I should have double checked that. Anyway, yeah, so you're fine. Your men are just in cover, looking pretty good. So now they are wheeling over and they're going to try to fire their artillery at you. But again, their artillery, it's all right. It's got an uphill battle because it's firing against you, in good cover. So I'm actually taking a couple of bits away. So again, they don't do anything to you. So you just get a couple of volleys, basically a barrage of like grape shot kind of skips on over top of your men. But yeah, they are in decent cover, and so they're able to actually take it pretty well. So just note that one more time. They rolled an offense of 3 against you and did nothing. No damage taken. Okay, so beginning of the turn. So your extra detachment reforms with your company once again. So you have a point of manpower that you basically haven't spent that you can kind of put back into your unit however you see fit. And what's that you hear coming in from the west? You hear the sound of fifes and drums being beaten as the fife and drums are playing "Rally Round the Flag" as they come on in. By next time, I think like I know how I could do it to get it to come through on the recording, which might be cool enough. But I want to be able to send it through the Discord too, because like I'd like to get it to a point where it's like, all right, what's Twiggs' regiment playing? What's Regis's regiment playing? What's the Confederate regiment playing? What's the extra Confederate regiment playing? And have all of them going all at once.
It's like jazz on jazz.
Yeah. But yeah, they're playing "Rally Around the Flag" as they come in, and you can look to the west and you can see an additional Union infantry regiment, beaten feet, like coming in real hot to get in there. So they got word from you and they have hoofed it as quick as they possibly could to get over here into the field. So they are advancing in a big ass column, just straight in this way. Coming straight in, making to the bridge, and yeah, so it is your turn. The Confederate the dismounted infantry are flat on their bellies, trying to fire at you in the trench. The artillery has fired ineffectively over the heads of their own men at the trench, and now they've got this extra infantry regiment that is basically sprinting to take positions on the bridge there.
Well, I think we're going to. The regiment will definitely lay into them just once more. Keep that fire up.
So you are basically 200 yards away from their artillery emplacement. If you fired at their artillery, you probably have an easier time hitting them than if you fired at their infantry.
Because they're standing?
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess before maybe I roll for my infantry, I would personally like to try my shot at their regimental commander one more time, and I'm willing to risk some of my like personal morale because I'd be pretty damn bummed if I am a marksman with a scoped rifle.
Yeah.
200 yards.
Okay. Yeah. I mean,
I should be able to hit a man-sized target.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that would just be your precision.
All right.
Plus, obviously, your marksman skill, plus any of the morale that you're wagering. I'm going to say that the difficulty of this one is if you roll a 5 or higher, it's a hit. And you're getting some extra kind of chaos because you have been shot at and your hands are shaking a little bit. But you are lying your rifle basically on a riverbank. And there's a lot of powder smoke in the air and dust and whatnot. And obviously, "Rally Around the Flag" is being played as men are trooping up to go take the bridge and everything. But yeah, go ahead and give me that roll.
All right. And I might even put 2 points of personal stamina into this to just like I am going to concentrate through the din, aim small, miss small. We're going to kill that guy.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to figure out which part of this I messed up this time. There we go.
No, nothing. You didn't mess anything up. And you rolled fucking 8 successes. So, yeah, tell me exactly how this fucking Sesesh dies. Tell me exactly what happens to him. Because, like, you do whatever you want to him. Like, with an 8, this could mean you shoot him in the belly and he spends, his last 3 hours on Earth in crippling agony, or it means that you take him out instantly, or it means that you like shoot him and knock him against one of his cannons and it rolls back over his foot. He yowls like a. It's totally up to you.
As much as I imagine that he was speaking to the rest of his cannon crew to fire on the damn Yankees, and he's moving those cannons in closer to load another round, and kind of bellowing at the his dismounted cavalry there to move them. So I like to imagine there's at least some amount of attention being paid to him, especially by all of his junior officers.
Yeah.
And his head explodes, right? So badly that the hat just falls onto his shoulders where his head was.
All right.
So he's the pile of goo where your best friend's face used to be.
Yeah.
Because Cash Regis this is what did I say? It was a Remington rolling block. So
yep.
I mean, it is a hefty cartridge. It's one of those, buffalo hunting guns that does some real damage, which all of my men also can see this, and I have to imagine are pretty happy about that. And the men sprinting forward because the Confederate officer is pretty prominent. And this is the kind of thing these men will remember at the GAR meetings in the 1890s.
Yes. So
not a great way, but man, they saw it.
Yeah. I'm also going to say that the shot is so spectacular that it, and now the Confederates have lost their officer. So their men are going to roll their cohesion, which, because it's an artillery unit, is very, very, very low. So I'm just going to roll right now. And they break and run. The entire... enough of the men running the guns just take cover or run away because of that shot, because they realize they are in range of riflemen. They're in range of very good riflemen, and they just saw their officer get cartoonishly killed. So they abandon their posts and run away, leaving the guns behind. So they're gone. They're off the field.
They all have PTSD. I guess it's right now, it's not even post-traumatic stress. They just have traumatic stress.
Yeah.
It's ongoing.
Yep. And they are off the field, and they have abandoned their guns. So now basically all you have is their infantry. So again, they're lying on the ground. It's going to be a little bit difficult to hurt them with rifles, but if you want to, you could use your offense roll as like a charge. And if you did that, you're not going to have any negative against getting at them in cover because they're lying there. And you'll actually get a bonus if you charge because they are not in a good position and not terribly cohesive.
I like that idea, and I like the idea of having blown their officer's head clean off.
Yeah.
Yelling over the top, boys.
Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna say that you have to spend 2 additional points of stamina on this one, but they are still going to manifest as like additions to the roll. So this is you can choose. You can use either cohesion or offense on this roll. It's up to you.
We will use our offense as it's a bit higher.
Right.
All 3, and I'm going to assume my all-in ability with the rest of the cohesion rolls I've been using, and the fact that I'm bellowing at them to come over the top.
Yeah. I would suggest, by the way, using your point of manpower to increase your stamina before this roll, because if you continue spending, it's going to get to a point where you're gonna have much harder rolls because you're tired. The manpower is always going to add 5 back to your stamina.
So that takes this right back up to full, essentially.
Yep. And so you're going to spend an additional 2, plus it's just the 1 for being in combat for a round. So you're going to go back down to 7 at the end of this roll.
Okay.
Yeah, this is actually one of the first times that combat has actually gone on long enough that this has been an important part. So I'm kind of glad we're getting to that.
I'd also like to spend. When does the morale that you risk come back?
Morale comes back in the same way that your unit points will come back. You essentially have to. Well, it comes back. You spend points of your unit attributes to get it back. You can also do things like have a hootenanny later tonight, and you might be able to recuperate some of your morale. That kind of thing.
Well, we'll spend another risk another 2 morale here.
Okay.
So when you're risking a morale, is that any different than spending it, or it just spends like
Yes.
stamina?
So if you fail this roll, you lose those points of morale. So whereas with stamina, you just lose the points of stamina regardless. With the morale, you're risking them. So if you fail the roll, you lose the morale. If that makes sense.
All right. So let's go. Apparently,
so
my guys don't like trench warfare very much.
What I would say is you can use a point of your power to re-roll entirely, and this might be a good time to do that. Because this isn't even that you failed. This is that you've catastrophically failed. So something like I might actually say that you personally would take a wound. Like as you kind of breast this little hill, you come back up over one of the Confederate marksmen just plinks you, and you fall back into the mud in the embrace of your men, and the charge fails, and you take a severe wound. Like that's what's going to happen unless you spend a point of power.
All right, I would like to do that. I'm not sure where to put my power rating because I only have the 1 left.
Yeah, you just take it away. That's all. You've just spent it.
Just,
So it's not going to influence your roll. You just roll the same roll again. That's all.
Man, why was that so bad?
That's much better.
Way better.
I'm really glad you spent that point of power.
So am I.
Yeah.
I imagine that he had some kind of horrible vision, like, Doctor Strange saying, I've seen, one possibility.
Yeah. You just pause for real. Wait a minute. Hang on, boys. Okay, now go.
Cold shiver down Cash Regis' spine, thinking what may have been.
Right. All right. So, you with rolling at 6 offense again. 6 offense for a charge. You get up and out and just go charging across right against the Secesh Revs. You basically overrun them. And with a 6, there's not really much that they can do. They're going to take basically all of the damage back to their cohesion, and that's going to leave them at 1 cohesion, which isn't really enough to even risk a roll. So they are done, and you have overrun them utterly. At about the same time, we're gonna have your buddies over here are gonna see if they can make a roll. This other lately arrived regiment is ready to get into the fight here. So here they come, are running down, spending all of their additional stamina to get into the fight and everything. And would you know it, they actually come right over top, and at the same time that you overrun them from one direction, they come in and overrun them from the other direction, because they don't even have to worry at all about the cannon being fired. So basically, they kind of come over, and your men just sort of jostle together and intermix completely as they come up. Yeah, as they come up and overrun this Confederate position. So you have utterly annihilated these guys. So I'm gonna really quickly calculate just sort of really quickly some of their casualties and everything, and then we're gonna switch over to Twigs if we still have time to do his thing. But real quick, so let me see. I did that last time. So I'm going to count up the number of hits that they actually took And it's basically, it's 1d10 per hit. So, 2, 3, 6, 7, because you killed their officer. All right. So I'm just going to roll 7d10. And what did I say last time? So anything 1 to 4 multiplied by 10, and that's wounded. 5 to 7 by 10 is prisoners, and 8 by 10, or 8 to 10 by 10 is killed. So we'll see. So we got a 2, 3, 4. Those are wounded. So that's 30 wounded. 5 to 7 are prisoners. You've got 10 prisoners, and you killed 30 of them.
Nice.
Yeah. So, including their officer, who is really, really badly beat up. So, was that 40? Is it 40 wounded? 30 wounded, 1 prisoner, or 10 prisoners, and 30 killed. Yep.
Nice. I hope at least one of the prisoners is like, a junior officer of this Confederate officer, like a low grade, like an ensign
Yeah.
adjutant,
Yeah.
who just stood there, just mouth agape and covered in gore. Basically, oh my god.
Yeah. And then looking at you guys, it doesn't make sense. Like, we're not going to count any of your guys as prisoners at all. So we're just going to count anything in the 5 to 7 range as wounds. So with your 3, you've actually taken 20 wounded and 10 killed, which is pretty light for essentially shelving this whole thing on your shoulders. So we stop the stream real quick. But yeah, so that's that action, pretty good. So this is September 3rd, 1863, and we can call this the Battle of Lipan Camp Creek, Texas. Naming things weirdly. But yeah, let me just mark down your killed and wounded. And I gotta check again because I'm a dope and I forgot. You get 6 and 7, so it's 20 wounded, 10 killed.
What did we say this was? September 3rd?
Yep. Oh, actually, I should roll another one because your detachment took a hit too. So let me just roll one more because you might have a bit more killed.
Better not.
And it is 10 more killed. Eee. So 30 wounded, 10, and 20 killed. Still, not so bad, especially for taking a whole bunch of prisoners. All right. Well done. For that one, at least.
Yeah, wait till they run into your cavalry.
Right.
I was ranging around that. What are you doing?
That's where it's just retiring the old battle map.
Another one for the right.
Yeah. I just have like a thing right over here. So.
I mean, I'm pleased in the battle. I got to personally kill a secession
Yeah.
in front of everyone, so they all saw.
Yeah.
It's like Babe Ruth calling his shot.
Yeah. I'm going to plink that Secesh right there. I'm going to shoot the rebel head right off his rebel shoulders. Boom!
And his rebel hat will fall right onto his rebel torso.
Alrighty. So, just let's get the map back up once again so that you can see it there. So, we've got that guy there. So obviously, this last action here was over here at Lipan Camp Creek, right about there. And so obviously, like the main force is still about to the point where they're crossing the creek and they're sort of reforming up with the rest of Regis's men. Obviously, I assume Regis's men are being given the chance to like rest a bit and like, here you go, buddy. So the rest of
just for our wounded.
yeah. So as a sort of a quick and rough interrogation that you've done on the surviving Secesh that you have captured, the idea was that if they had access to their horses, they hadn't been scattered, they were actually going to just try to make a stand here for as long as they could, even if it was 10 minutes, right? Even if it was just like they stood there long enough that like the approaching division had to just form up in order to kind of come across the bridge or look for a ford or something. And they were immediately going to retreat back across Good Spring. So there was a total force here of about 300 Confederates. That's it. Mostly dismounted cavalry and that one piece of artillery. They have another 300 men at Good Spring Creek that they were supposed to link up with, and they have an additional 300 men at Dove Creek. So that's what Twigs you're about to run into. Is they've got this force over here at Dove Creek, which is about exactly the same size. It's another 300. The idea being that the bulk of these men were going to retreat and retreat and retreat until they formed up. And yeah, so they've got let's see. Yeah. Okay. So we've got basically the same thing going on as we had last time with Twigs, or with Regis rather. So your men obviously are approaching. They are you've reached the creek. This is all going to cost 4 stamina, and you get it's probably about noon by the time you actually get to the sort of the tributary that is going to lead down to Dove Creek. But it's the same sort of thing, right? You're following along. It is a fairly dry chunk of river. It's mostly just mud, and it's got a little bit of water kind of in the middle. So you also have a second regiment of cavalry basically coming with you. It's the Kiowa that have been riding along with you. So you are essentially you have command of them as well. So you can kind of sort of figure what to do at this point. So you're probably it's probably going to take another couple of hours for you to get down to like the Dove Creek crossing, which is where you expect any resistance to be, if there is any. So what do you want to do as you approach?
We're going to send there's a group of, I don't know who consider themselves scouts. They're going to go out in front, come back and tell us what's going on.
Okay.
We're not going to wait for them. They're just expected to go fast.
Okay, yeah. So give me a roll. This is a detachment, and I'm going to say that the Kiowa have an additional skill point in scouting, particularly. So their detachment is going to roll a 5 with a 2 skill for scouting.
I never get the syntax right.
There you go. Perfect. Cool. So yeah, as you're maneuvering down at about 1 o'clock, about an hour later, some of the Kiowa men come by, and again, it's Kayakia, the personal commander, and again, this very brawny, shirtless guy wearing a big hat with a huge feather on it and silk gloves coming down to his elbows. Yeah. He rides up and just sort of like casually throws a leg like over the back of his horse, right? And he tells you in very good English what he sees up there, and it looks like, again, same sort of setup as Regis would have seen. So it is a group of dismounted Confederate or cavalry with another set of guns. They've got 5 pieces of 5 cannons that are sitting over again a fairly narrow bridge. And Dove Creek is a little bit smaller than Lipan Camp Creek. So it's a little bit more easy to cross, but they've probably got maybe 400 or 500 Confederates sort of watching this bridge. So this is probably about 12 miles or so away from Lipan Camp Creek. So being this is 1 o'clock in the afternoon or so, obviously you are not aware of what has happened over at Lipan Camp, and neither are the Confederates. So the timing has actually worked out pretty well. But so just so you're aware, your cavalry right now are going to be at 7 stamina, just as a result of the trip here on a quite hot day.
Yeah. How do we feel about our numbers versus their numbers?
You have a full regiment. You've got like 700 or so cavalry just in your regiment, and you've got a sort of it's kind of hard to estimate how many the Kiowa have, because all of them have extra horses, and a lot of them kind of come and go as they please. But you've probably got another 300 or 400 at least with the Kiowa regiment.
Mhm.
Plus, you've got 3 pieces of artillery, which Kircher, you didn't even use. You left it behind. Regis went, yeah.
Way too much.
Yeah.
They're covering the bridge approach, right? Where
Yep. So I'll draw the map real quick, because again, it's basically the same sort of thing, right? You have I'll put the. Oh, I should have switched this. I'll just keep that up. Yeah, because you have you're advancing down again. The river is on your right.
Mhm.
You sort of kind of reach the point where there's a sort of a split that kind of runs off this way.
Well, it's shift drain if you're up, if it's up.
So obviously, you would not be aware of this in a meta sort of a way, but you have there's a chance that if this fight takes more than a couple of hours, that retreating Confederates will come from the other creek that attaches to Dove Creek.
Yeah.
Will actually retreat backward the 3 or 4 miles. Good Spring Creek will retreat backward 3 or 4 miles. So you might actually be dealing with an additional 400 or 500 Confederates as they retreat backward. Because this was the idea that they were going to make this kind of a staggered retreat, which they've sort of fucked up slightly. So it's about 1 in the afternoon now. It's probably going to take you another hour or so to get down to a point where you can sort of start maneuvering against the other forces. But let me get the basic map here up and switch this over on there. Right. So once again, your men are sort of going to be advancing from over here, which is north side. See it, right? And you guys are quite as high, coming in from basically from that direction. So again, they've got their horse lines sort of scattered around over here. They've got their dismounted cavalry kind of guarding the bridge in sort of. I mean, they're more spread out than that, obviously, and they're kind of taking cover as they can, and they've got their gun line staggered over here to the south. Did you hear all that?
I'm on mute, so I can't say anything you said. So I'm just saying, we've already got the angle on them. So my guys, we just kind of ride to engagement distance and dismount and start engaging as whatever the normal procedure is for us to do that. The artillery is going to follow right up along us. Thing and get those horses.
Okay. Can you repeat that again? I sort of lost you a bit. So
What's that?
I lost all of that because my internet shat
Okay.
out again.
Okay, slightly shorter version is we already have the angle, so we're not going to get fancy. We're going to drive right in. The guns we're going to bring right up to whatever engagement distances for 12 powders, things like 400 yards or something.
Yeah.
We're going to come into.
Okay. Yes. All right. That's kind of what I thought. I'm glad that you said it. I will repeat it so that the eventual recording we can just pretend we didn't have internet issues.
So
But yeah. So your men are going to head down, basically just south. Just get in a couple hundred yards away, dismount, and engage the Confederates. You're going to have your artillery. Are they going to be on your right or your left?
artillery is going to be on the left.
So like over here.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, they're going to come up to about 400 yards or so, something like that, with clear shots. They're going to fire on the dismounted infantry or on their artillery.
Artillery first.
Okay. All right. And then the Kiowa are going to ride around and they're going to do a thing that Kiowa love to do, which is go get horses. All right. So, Kircher, do you want to roll for the artillery or would you want to roll for the Kiowa?
I feel like I will have better luck rolling for the artillery.
Okay. All righty. So, let's get, obviously, none of this has happened yet. So, Twigs, roll for your regiment. So this is going to be your role for basically just pounding straight through their sort of. Obviously, you're not worried about concealment. You're not worried about trying to hide. You're going to come in as fast as you possibly can to try to get right in their faces and start shooting. Is that right? Jesus Christ.
Maybe that'll make things better. Better?
I mean, I'm back.
It might be causing stress on his connection.
Yeah,
That's true.
I'm not sure what. Can you hear me again? By the way.
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. For
I
some
move
reason,
we do
it's
each turn by mail.
There you go. Go back to the old play by email games.
Yeah. Okay, there we go.
Oh no, regular mailed.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I would say that that's basically what it is. Maneuver and generalship. And this is, again, sort of getting your men just basically as quickly into action as they possibly can.
I want to use a point. So gambling a point of stamina means I get to roll an extra die, right?
No, you spend the stamina, but you do get to roll an extra die. But if you use the stamina, it's gone. If on the other hand you wager morale, and if you fail, that's when you're going to that's when you lose it.
All right, I'm gonna wager a point of morale,
Okay.
which gives what's the mechanical effects of that?
It's the same as stamina. You just get an extra die to roll, and you only lose it if you fail the roll. So I'm going to say that in order to kind of come up pretty quickly and get into a well-formed firing line, you're going to need to roll a 5 maneuver at least.
Okay.
So I believe for you, if I'm looking at your stats right, so your maneuver is a 3. You may want to distribute some manpower to that. Is your generalship a 2?
It's a 1.
It's a 1, okay. And then
we'll have 2 points of manpower to get into.
2 points of manpower?
Yeah, so that becomes roll 6.
What's your manpower? Or your maneuver is a 3, right? So if you do the 2 points of manpower, your maneuver is going to be a 5.
And I'm risking a point around.
Okay, and that's a +1.
So that's roll 5.
It would look like that. So obviously this isn't the roll, but that's what it looks like. Okay.
Good enough.
Yeah, so I mean, you get there. Your line's a little bit ragged, so you don't actually get the chance in this round to fire quite yet. But you do have your men troop up real quick to get within 200 yards or so of the Confederate line, so just a little bit closer. And they are currently dismounting as they've come up.
So, should I mark off the point of round?
No, because you've actually succeeded because you only need to get a 4. If you had a 5, that would have actually gotten you to like also fire, so you wouldn't have to waste another round kind of sorting yourself out before you shoot. So you didn't actually fail, so you keep that morale.
Cool. All right.
Okay, so they're in the line there. So Regis, go ahead and give me a roll for the artillery. So the artillery, real quick, I'll put this in character. Artillery stats are going to be cohesion is only a 2 because they're just artillery. Their maneuver is going to be a 3 because they sort of rigged up on kind of weird horse carriages and whatnot, and they can move okay. Their labor is actually quite high because they're used to digging themselves in, and their offense is actually quite high because it's artillery. And they have two. Yeah, they've got 2 more points of manpower. So you can distribute the manpower before if you want to, which would make this maneuver. But this is a maneuver check again to kind of get them in range and start firing.
Maybe we'll throw 1 point of manpower into maneuver.
Okay.
Seems important. Can't shoot at them if we can't shoot at them.
Yep. Okay, so I've adjusted that. So manpower 4. So go ahead and roll 4. And you have an officer in charge. So the officer is a volunteer from Santa Fe, and he's actually an out-of-work railway speculator. He's one of the, not speculator, surveyor. He's actually one of the guys who came out to survey the Western Territories for the Transcontinental Railroad, and then the war broke out. So he's been out of a job basically since 1861, and he joined up with the Santa Fe Volunteers as part of this artillery bridge. So he's actually a pretty good officer. So he has a skill of 2 that you can roll for this. So you're going to be rolling 4 for your manpower plus 2 to deploy the cannons to see if you can get them in a place where they can start shooting. Okay, so they're going to take an additional turn before they can get to a point where they can deploy. Or you can deploy them slightly out of range. I mean, not out of range, they're still in range, but you can deploy them in a place where they're going to be a little bit harder to... they're going to basically have a negative... a plus 1 point of pressure to hit anything because they're farther away. But it's
we'll move closer. We want our shots to count.
Okay.
Even if it's we're riding the struggle bus on getting it there. So.
Yep. Okay. And then I'm gonna roll as the Kiowa because the Kiowa are gonna make kind of a sweep around on the flank in order to get to out toward the horse lines. So I'm gonna say that if they roll a 7 or higher, they're just in the horse lines. Like you're sort of like, hey, all right, go ahead, cut, and they're already there. Like you're not even done speaking to say go get the horses, and they're in there. But we'll see. So I'm gonna roll for them. They actually have a very high maneuver because they are extremely, extremely adept at this kind of thing. So they actually have like one of the highest sort of unit ranks of any skill, plus a good officer, plus they're basically going for broke and rolling 4 extra stamina because they really want to get those horses.
Get them.
Oh, shit!
For the record,
only time you
going
roll.
into this game, somehow I knew that Adam would give all of the native people extra points.
I didn't give them any extra points. Let me show you what I'm going to put in character what their stats look like, just so that you all know.
Oh, that's good.
But the Kiowa Volunteers, they have a trait that means that they are very good at forming and reforming. So they can actually like they can reform after they take a cohesion hit even though their cohesion is very, very, very low. But I basically like their entire thing is their maneuver and their offense. So that's what they look like, right? So like if they take one hit, they are functionally ineffective until their officer can rally them again. But their maneuver is super duper high, obviously. But they have low labor because they're not going to dig in. They're just going to ride away. Their offense is pretty good. Their offense is like above average, but like nothing like really astronomical. And their manpower is quite low as well because they also are not super good at like keeping a reserve. They sort of are functionally all in all the time. So I didn't give them any extra points. I just made them extremely unbalanced, is essentially what it is. If we want to use
really good at the thing I thought they would be good at.
Yes, and I mean they're also like I made them spend a little bit extra of their stamina because like this is something in particular that they're very, very, very good at, and this would make a very good use for like native cavalry auxiliaries essentially to go and do. So yeah, they rolled a 9. So not only do they get within the horse lines, but you guys can also, if you want to, determine what else they do or sort of how else this affects you in a way that actually benefits your next actions. So you feel free to use whatever you like with this, but one suggestion might be that they stampede the horses westward, so it actually interferes with their artillery line of sight and their infantry line. Or they ride up and scatter the horses and then just like start shooting or something. It's up to you guys.
So depending on if they followed what I wanted them to do or not, I wanted them to get the horses and like keep them.
Okay.
That might not be feasible. Maybe they just got very excited.
Yeah.
So
but I mean, again, since
if the horses scattering and stampeding. Go ahead. Sorry.
Basically, just since you rolled a 9, since I rolled a 9 for them, you can determine anything that you want them to do or have done. It's entirely up to you because, So, if you want them to keep the horses, that's cool. Go ahead. Say it again.
Keep the horses. So
okay.
We're going to be keeping the horses back north. The other ones are rambunctious, and they're going to start attacking. They're not in any real cohesion, so they're just going to start attacking. So
okay.
The 9, I say it doesn't cause effective casualties, but it does shake. The Confederates are wavering. Our horses are gone, and there's crazy Indians, and this is bad.
I will say. Okay. I'll say then that for your next roll, your firing roll, after you form this line at the beginning of this turn, or the next turn, you're going to get a +1 bonus to your roll. Just a flat skill bonus, basically. Because the Confederates are basically what they've done, right, is that they've sort of, all of them were kind of sitting there looking over the bridge, and then they hear whoops, and they're and then they stand up what? So as they're turning around and seeing the Kiowa stealing their horses, they're like, damn! And they stand up, and then from over there, that's when your first volley is going to hit them, basically, is sort of right when they're distracted by that. So we'll say that's what's going on, and I will get that up on the board. Nope, back. There we go. So so Kiowa, make this long end run around, and oh yeah, and they corral the horses and start dragging them that way, and some of them start shooting because they're not very cohesive. I probably spelled corral wrong.
Good enough.
But yeah. So they are, the Confederates are a little bit rattled because of all this. So they have to roll a leadership check before they can do anything. So I'm actually going to just make their officer just roll his skill. And if it's a 5 or more, they get to act this turn. But good Lord, every single time I've tried to roll a leadership check for a Confederate officer, I fucking completely biff it. I roll it really badly every time. He rolled a 1. So again, bad things happen to these Confederates. They're a bunch of them are actually
Bad thing
disengaging.
deserved.
Yeah, well, a bunch of them are actually disengaging and literally sprinting across back toward their horse lines. So their whole line is basically just like, it's not a line at all. There's a whole bunch of just disordered, spread out men that have formed these weird little ad hoc detachments that are doing nothing. They're just basically right out in the open. They're abandoning their defensive positions over the bridge. And they've also got to a point where their artillery is also, they can't fire because there's no hills, there's no terrain anywhere. It's just flat Texan prairie. So their artillery can't fire over the heads of their men that are going after their horses, and also like running into the guns of the Kiowa. And they're basically, I'm going to give you an additional +2 to the skill slot on this roll. So your men are dismounted. They have formed up a firing line. They've got their little Boy Scouts holding the horses, 10 yards behind you. And the Confederates are 150 yards in front of you, out in the open with no cover, completely disordered. I'm actually going to say they're actually at a 2 cohesion right now, which is half of what they usually are. So like one volley can clear them away.
We'll put all 3 points of manpower into offense.
Okay. Yeah. So the
4, 5.
Yeah. So the you'll be rolling at your offense, which is going to be at a 5, right?
4.
At a 4. The skill slot is where all those bonuses are going to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a 4. And the skill slot is 1 for generalship or leadership or whatever, and then 4 for manpower. It's total 5. And then +3.
Yep.
That syntax there, right?
Yeah. Well, so hang on. What's your so the manpower you said is going into offense, right?
Yes.
And that's all 3 of your offense points.
Yeah.
So basically, it should have been the manpower give you extra dice to roll. They don't give you extra successes.
So that would be. But then, well, how do I type it in so it doesn't change the difficulty? That's the thing. Is that the +3?
It does change the difficulty.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the pool of dice you roll is always also the same number that you're looking to roll under.
Okay. So is that correct?
No, because you're actually it's this.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah. But if you want to, you can take that 8, which is easily enough. An 8 is like, even without, like, you probably would have done even better, but this is fair enough, right? But yeah, with an 8, they're gone. You've just one volley. You rode up to them, dismounted, and fired one absolutely terrific volley into these completely distracted guys, and a whole bunch of them are going to go down. So that is effectively, you've done 6 damage to them because they only had 2 cohesion. So that's 6 hits. So they're gone. They're not even gonna. I'm not even gonna roll against them. I'm just gonna say, this is Twigs' volley. Or Twigs' volley. And they're absolutely, completely, and utterly gone from the field. So they've only got artillery. And okay, so that is your infantry, or your cavalry, sorry. That's your California cavalry volunteers. So go ahead, Regis, and give me the. It's an additional maneuver roll, but you're halfway there. So I'm going to give you another +1 on the skill point in order to get deployed this turn.
All right. I'm going back to the last time I rolled to figure out what it was. Because it. Okay.
Maneuver's 4.
4. Yeah.
Yep.
+2 for my skill points.
Yep. But it's going to be a 3 total in that slot because you're going to get a +1. Yep. Perfect. Yeah, that's enough. So you're actually your sort of second thing here gets them out to a point where they can be deployed. So they do that, and you get the first chance to fire on the Confederate artillery. So the Confederate artillery, are looking like they are going to open fire. There are still men in between them and Twiggs's men, obviously. But they don't care because those men are broken and they need to fire at Twiggs's guys to get them to back off before anything else happens. So you have got, you're in good range. This is 250 yards, very close. You're able to hit them. So I'm going to give you a +1 extra die, like a plus stamina slot, but you can fire. So this would be an offense roll, obviously. So it's a 6. You've got that 1 point of manpower. If you put that in, you could be rolling a 7 right now.
I believe I will.
And then your officer is at a 2, and then you get a +1 extra die onto that because of the range.
That's a smiling ass face.
Okay, so I'm gonna roll real quick. They're gonna get the chance to roll sort of a defense because they've kind of built bulwarks. So they're gonna roll their labor, which is not so bad. So their labor is actually a 3. They're going to put their additional manpower into it, though, so they're going to be rolling at a 5, and their officer is a 2. So they're rolling that. Okay, you've still hit them pretty good. You've done actually 4 damage against them. So that's 4 hits. And basically, you've got a choice here, right? So their artillery is kind of here. They did have sort of emplacements that sort of defended them, so they could fire kind of obliquely over the bridge. But you hit them for 4 damage. And again, you get to kind of determine where that damage goes, right? So let me look again at their stats. So obviously you don't know exactly where their stuff is. So you could say that your artillery, like that first barrage of artillery, like hits low and kind of blows away like the sandbags or stacked rocks that they use to make the kind of embrasures. You could say that, again, you hit the officers. You could say that it takes the offense and you like burst one of their guns. Or it's up to you. Anything. You could hit their maneuver and you could basically scare their horses away so they can't move.
Oh man, these are all good choices.
Yeah.
I think I would like to go for their offense and try and like blow a wheel off a limber or something.
Okay. Yeah, I'll say
Just
you
to cut down their ability to fight back.
Sure. Yeah. I'll say you've dismounted at least 1 gun. So as you fire here, right? Offense roll 7. So as this kind of ball goes skipping across the field, right? It skips right up in one of the kind of openings of the embrasure, and you see like one of the brass guns just kind of just like sag off to the side as it gets struck. So okay. So you have that. They are going to fire because they have an opportunity to do so, but they've put up all their manpower into that labor because they were trying to dig in. So, and their officer is okay, and they roll 3 successes, and they're actually firing because if they were firing at anybody else, they'd have to maneuver again, or they'd have to at least take a turn to shift. So they're actually firing at Twiggs's men. So roll your cohesion for me, Twiggs. And the number to beat is a 3.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, sort of describe how you kind of, I suppose essentially what happens is you just kind of take cover, like you tell your men to spread out and hug the ground or whatever.
Yep.
Okay.
We're all gonna do it again. Do your job. And
Yeah. So basically these guys fire, and they rolled a 3, not super good. The offense, their ball just goes, again, it goes basically right through the fleeing Confederates. Like, there's still a mass of men here, that are running in every direction. So like maybe probably a couple of them get hit or at least scatter even more. But the balls just come across and just skip along right past your men who've, they've thrown themselves onto the ground, taking cover against the artillery that fired at them. And it's harmless. Their discharge is completely harmless. So it is top of the round again. I'm gonna. You two can go first, and then I'm gonna actually roll a leadership check for the Kiowa. And if they pass a cohesion check, then they get to act again. If not, they're just gonna keep running off with the horses.
I mean, that's fine.
Yeah.
The
Kiowa are kind of a fire and forget sort of a weapon.
Yeah. Do you think? We are
Bye.
to remount. We're just going to advance and try to take those guns.
Okay. If you want to remount and move in the same turn, I'm going to say you have to roll at least a 4.
No, we are not going to remount.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, give me a maneuver check. See how quickly you get. So are you just going to like try to charge the guns?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Put 3 manpower in a maneuver.
Okay. Okay, that's pretty good. So the 4, yeah, you're able to get you cross probably another 200 yards or so. So you're going to get to roughly about here. Hopefully I'm actually still sharing that screen.
You are.
Okay, good. Yeah, you're going to get to about here. You can stop and fire.
We will do.
Or you can just roll. Actually, you can either stop and fire, which you have to roll for it. You're going to get some bonuses because you're super close. Or you can spend a couple of extra points of stamina and just overrun the guns.
Actually, that sounds better.
Okay.
2 points of stamina in them?
Yeah, so that would be 3 total because you spent 1 automatically on just the move.
Yeah.
So the extra 2 is basically like you get within like 100 yards and you just say, fuck it, let's go. Right? Yeah. And you just go.
Do you want a particular roll for that?
Roll offense, yeah. But you're going to actually get those extra 2 are going to be automatically folded into your roll.
So it becomes roll 6?
It's going to be your maneuver. So the maneuver you just used, so that's a 6 because you put all your manpower into it. It's going to be 1 from your officer, and then it's going to be a +2 because you automatically spent that stamina.
Ooh.
Yeah. That's fine though because you're basically rolling against like the defense, like the labor of the artillery. So we're going to see what that is in just a moment. But for now, let me chart this movement here. So we go up there. +2 stamina for charge. Okay, so I'm rolling again as the artillery.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
I'm just talking to myself mostly. I'm rolling as the artillery now.
Okay.
So they're actually rolling their labor because the labor is sort of like the representation of their embankment, like their digging in that they've done. Right. So their labor was, I made it a 5 because I assigned their manpower to it. They've got an officer at 2. And they rolled a 3. So you actually do 1 point of damage to them, but they're actually staying there and fighting you. So your men kind of charge in. You haven't really taken any casualties quite yet, but you're basically getting into a fight at here.
Yeah.
So automatically, you're going to roll an offense. They're going to roll their offense at half because they're not actually using their artillery. Obviously, they're not using their guns. They're fighting hand-to-hand, and they're an artillery crew. So they're not really good at fighting hand-to-hand. So they're actually going to be fighting at a 2.
I hope a bunch of them have those, like, Roman short sword gladius artillery swords.
Yeah. All right, they've done no damage to you. They're going to take a point in their cohesion. A point of damage in their cohesion. And you're going to be fighting around next round. So you haven't done... Actually, let me check. because they have a low cohesion because they're artillery. They have 2 cohesion. So next round, they're gonna like if you do 1 more point of damage to them, they're done. So sorry.
How about them in Kiowa?
Hmm.
Or did they fail their check?
Yes. Let me roll for the Kiowa. Let's see how they do. This is just a flat leadership check from their 1 officer. Nah. They're still riding around. They're doing tricks on the Confederate horses that they've captured and entertaining the rest of the regiment. Yeah, so they are not good, but nothing else is going on. So your artillery can't fire at their artillery because they could hit your men.
Yep.
The Kiowa are sort of nowhere to be found, and so you just roll another offense. So again,
burn another point of stamina.
Yep.
And then roll offense. Can I
Yep.
move my? Is manpower committed, or can I move that into offense?
Since you're engaged, you need to make a leadership check first. So go ahead and roll a generalship. This is just your personal character skill. And if it's higher than a 5, you can reassign the manpower.
What attribute should I use for that?
I would say intellect or charm. Honestly, you're in the middle of a charge, so even athletics, I think, would count.
Right, I think athletics would make the most sense.
Okay. Oh, another option. Another option would be basically like you just take your sword and kill the artillery officer, which might be a tradition for this particular game.
Do it dramatically. You better cut his head clean off.
Yeah. But yeah, no, with a 2 you can't reassign the manpower, but this is like mostly just a matter of time sort of a thing. It's just like your men are going to get a little bit extra tired and a little bit extra slightly wounded because there's very little chance that this artillery thing is going to actually inflict any damage to you. So go ahead and roll again your offense, and I'm going to roll their truncated offense. Oh, I think I rolled it wrong last time, actually. No. Oh, I did roll it wrong last time. They shouldn't have had a 5 because they're only rolling their shitty offense because they don't have guns.
Sorry, I had to step away for a second.
That's okay. Just go ahead and roll your unit's offense. Again, you couldn't reassign any of your manpower points because of but yeah, just your charge offense.
Do we get anything for having breech loaders?
Yeah, I'll say a +2 in like the stamina slot. So that 3rd slot with the plus, I'll give you a 2 because you can reload quite quickly. You can fire basically into their faces as you're coming up over their little defenses. Perfect. Okay, so yet another like grinding round of yeah. So far, this has been. I'm just going to put rounds of close combat.
Hi. No.
Okay, you got to keep going until you inflict at least 1 more point of damage to them.
On this turn, I want to spend. Can I spend? I forget how power spending works. You spend a point of power to get automatic.
Yeah, so you can spend a point of power. It'll give you a +2 automatic successes. You got to beat a 2.
Oops. Using the bot.
So no, that time you'd actually get a 3 because it's the plus. It would be basically this. Oops, 4, 3. It'd be like that.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's just it's a flat 2 successes when you spend the point of power automatically. So with a 3 against a 2, you do enough damage to finally convince them to surrender after 3 rounds of close combat.
Yeah, they earned it.
That is a stubborn cannon crew.
Yeah.
They want to get up those guns.
Yeah. Obviously, if you had been mounted for this charge, you would have been able to do it a little bit more quickly. But all's well that ends well. But okay. Stop
On that
streaming.
note, I have to take a hard cut because Lauren had to jump into something for work, and the baby is really mad about it.
Okay. All right. I'll put like the wrap up stuff here in the channel, and we can do some other stuff. But basically, like you've taken very light casualties, like none at all. Like you personally, like none of your units have taken like any meaningful casualties at all. And you've basically routed like 600 Confederates with like barely firing a shot. Like they did it mostly to themselves in their scramble to get away. So yeah, you have taken basically both of these crossing points on the Coach Road. There's probably like a Confederate force of a few hundred in between your two units, but with the rest of the division coming in between you, and like you've got a fairly like between you and the Kiowa, you have like 1,200 men here. So there's a pretty good chance that you are basically just going to convince that little group of Texas militia to surrender.
Right.
But yeah, but that's it. That's the I guess the end of these battles here. So well done.
Yeah, good game.
Yeah.
I gotta run before violence occurs.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Yep. Have a good one.
I think that went